It's time for Inside the Patch with your Las Vegas Raiders. Here's Gnarley Charley.
Well, welcome to Inside the Patch. It's Gnarley Charley, along with Brian Noe and a bevy, is bevy a word? A bunch of guests that we have every week. We do want to thank our sponsors, Porta Subs, 50 years and still slicing. Also, Fresno Racket Shelving, nice rack. And if you want to donate to Valley Children's Hospital, it's easy. Text the word Gnarly to 51555. It's that simple. We've got Brian Noe here. Now, Brian, I want to talk about the injury for Monday Night Football, how horrific it is, and tell me what you think about that whole thing.
It was crazy. To put it mildly, I don't know about you, Gnarly, but it took me a while to understand how significant the injury was. Because when I saw Damar Hamlin, he made a tackle. It looked like a routine play, nothing crazy. He stood up, and then he just fell straight back down. And I thought that was clearly alarming, but I didn't know it was cardiac arrest. I had no idea. And even when they started to show some of the Bills players and their reaction to it, it still wasn't completely processing how serious it was until they said they've administered CPR. And I'm like, whoa, that is a game changer. Like, he's not breathing on his own. And when they said that's when I knew for sure it was a different situation.
Well, for me, it was the reaction of the announcers, because I was thinking the announcers are getting information in their ear. Like, they're telling them, hey, this guy is in a bad way. And they couldn't even do their job. They were like, there was a definite something's really wrong here. And I guess the key for me was when the ambulance was actually on the field. It's never that way. They bring the little cart out, but when they said they bring the ambulance out on the field, I was like, oh, this is like he might not make it. It's that crazy.
Yeah, I know. And some of the updates they were giving where it was like they started to put him in the ambulance and then they stopped and they administered CPR. And it's like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now? But he's making progress. Those are the updates that we're getting, that he is responding well, and it seems to be trending in the right direction. But, man, it's totally understandable that the game was postponed the way it was, and it wasn't resumed, and it might not be resumed. We'll find out in the days to come if they're planning on trying to make that game up or not. It's just nice that we can even think along those lines, because it was all about Damar Hamlin. Until he is okay, until he's improving, none of this other stuff matters.
Well, even fantasy football. It was a lot of that was their final week of fantasy football. And that changed. So now it's for the money, and it's the championship, and it's never played. So then what do you do? And every league that I've been a part of, they're all like, no worries, we'll figure it out. They'll come up with something. But in the league, if the Bengals were to win that game, then the Chiefs don't have to try for their last game. Their home field advantage, they're covered. Well, now the game wasn't played, and so the Chiefs are playing the Raiders, unfortunately, and they have to win because they don't know what's going to happen. It's not like baseball. You can't just play it,
It's a crazy scenario. It is, because we get to the secondary part of it, which is who's seated where, and it's all football stuff. Mm-hmm. Of course, utmost importance is Damar Hamlin. We all understand that. But secondarily, there is a ripple effect. How do you go about this? There has been speculation where, hey, maybe the NFL, after Week 18, they would resume the Bengals-Bills game and then start the playoffs the following week. And if they aren't going to do that, that's a big piece of information for Week 18. Like, who does what? Who plays their guys? So, and you mentioned the race for the 1 seed. The Bills had the inside track. If they won out, if they won their final 2 games, they're the 1 seed. They're the top seed in the AFC. And if that game against the Bengals is not resumed, it's going to be the Chiefs if they beat the Raiders this weekend, which is wild. Like, the Bills essentially get penalized for having a safety who was suffering cardiac arrest and needed CPR administered. Like, how can you get screwed by that happening. It shouldn't be the case at all.
Well, and think about this. Let's say they have to push the Super Bowl back. Think about the amount of, that's the number one sporting event of the year. I don't think they can. I don't think they can. What they would do
is, because they have that bye week in between Championship Sunday, the conference championship games, and the Super Bowl. If they push the playoffs back an entire week, they just wouldn't have that bye week in between when the Championship Sunday and the Super Bowl is. So the Super Bowl is going to be where it is. Yeah.
If the Bills or the Bengals are going, they're at a disadvantage now because they had to play. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's no good answer to this.
Right. No, there's no perfect solution. It's, if they did the other thing where if they're resuming play, think of it like this. So we've got week 18 this week, and then it would basically be like week 19 where it's just resuming Bills, Bengals, and then the playoffs would happen the next week. If that happened, then pretty much all the playoff teams would have a bye week. And the one seeds would just get an additional bye week. So even that would be goofy.
Right. Well, and then we have media day where we have all the stupid questions asked to the Super Bowl people. Are we going to miss out on that? Marshawn Lynch would love it because he didn't want to answer questions anyway. But
Marshawn Lynch made a ton of money off of not answering questions, Like he's a guy now. He's a name. But we would still work in the "Will you marry me, Tom Brady?" and someone wearing a dress and all the
a clown.
What would you be? We got to have that.
Yeah. All right, Brian, stick around. Coming up, we are going to talk about the state of the Raiders. Dude, where's my car? And the whole bit. That's coming up next, right here on Inside the Patch.
We'll be back with more Inside the Patch on 1430 ESPN, your official home of the Las Vegas Raiders.